All right. Welcome to an all-new episode of GVN Review, and today we will be reviewing a movie. I don't care what anyone says. I am putting Oscar nominations in for as many possible categories as I can for this movie, and that is The Many Saints of Newark. But before we get into it, let me introduce my co-host, Tia. What's up, Tia?
Hello, everyone. Really excited to be talking about this. I believe we did our little review about the final trailer, like a week or so ago. And so I'm happy that we finally get to actually review the movie.
Yep, I'm 100% with you. I watched this movie at 3 a.m. I was in no mood to have anyone spoil even the smallest detail of this movie. I wanted to experience it all myself. I told you before, I actually did a review with Joe last night about this. But I just watched The Sopranos last year during quarantine.
Mm-hmm.
I binged it all. Before HBO became HBO Max, HBO Go is where I was able to binge watch it all. I loved it. I fell in love with it within like the first 4 or 5 episodes. So I remember when I heard this, it was kind of just like, do we really need to know what happened before the show? Like, how necessary is it? And albeit I love the trailer, we obviously talked about it, how much we love the trailer and was looking forward to it, and it has an amazing cast.
Yeah.
It just still, up until I started watching The Many Saints of Newark, was a feeling of, do we need this? And within the first 15, 25 minutes, I said yes. Yes, yes, we do. And then the movie ends with us knowing, yeah, we needed this. So let's jump into it, Tia. I want to start off with this because I want to dedicate as much time to this as possible.
Okay.
Corey Stoll.
So good.
If he does not get nominated, at the least, it is the biggest travesty since Chris Evans not winning for defending Jacob.
Yeah. 100%. Because first of all, you couldn't have found a better person to play Junior. And I just want to say really quick, I'm not sure if I said this in our review of the trailer, but I'm like still in the middle of watching The Sopranos. I never watched The Sopranos growing up. I was too young at that point. And I do want to say that there's probably like a small amount of me that didn't want to watch it just because it did feel very stereotypically Italian. And like as an Italian American, I was like, we're not all gangsters. But then I saw that they were making this movie, and of course it has Jon Bernthal in it, Corey Stoll, Vera Farmiga. I mean, just a phenomenal cast. So it's like, I want to watch it. So finally I started watching Sopranos and I'm really enjoying it. So from like having watched 4 seasons of Sopranos, I'm like, Corey Stoll was the perfect decision. And he really, really like saw the character in the show, took that, made it completely his own. And I'm like, I loved his character. And we don't have to get into it just at this moment, but I was shocked at the end.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why I said the way it ended let you know that this was needed. But yeah, he had, between him and the original actor who played Junior, I believe they had an Ultron vision thing. I believe the actor that was Junior transformed his body into Corey Stoll. Yeah. It was just like puppeting him because that's how accurate he was. The curtain, the mannerisms, how he talked, how he was always weird with Tony. And then we see in the show, they don't get along at all. So to me, it was scary how perfect he was.
Yeah.
What was even scarier was Vera as his mom.
Oh my God, she was so spot on because, like, you know, Vera Farmiga is this beautiful actress and she's a phenomenal actress and everything. So when you first see her, it's like, oh, she's really nicely put together, you know, X, Y, Z. And then as soon as she starts talking and the little like nagging things and even the looks, I'm like, oh, like in that beginning scene when they're at the like celebration and she's just like, and Johnny Boy is like complimenting the daughter and she's like, and I'm like, that's her.
That's her.
That's her. That's the character Olivia to a T.
Yep. And what I loved the most was Tony's mom had a special level of annoyance. You know what I'm saying? You know how some people got annoyed by Fran Drescher's voice? Like how it was just too much. Tony's mom didn't have an annoying voice, just an annoyance about her presence. She complained about everything. She whined about everything. Everything was about her. And then I love that in this movie, she had her catchphrase, which was, "Oh, poor you. Poor you, Tony. Poor you." I loved it. And what really stood out to me was how Vera could switch like that.
Yeah.
Just like the mom would in the show, to where it was like, "Tony, I love you. Come give me a hug. Give me a kiss. I've missed you." And then he's like, "All right, so what's going on, Mom? Why'd you call me?" And it's like, why does it always have to be, why'd you call me? Why can't you just be happy to see your mom?
And the guilt tripping, because in that moment when she makes him the burger and she's like, "Oh, how am I supposed to go enjoy the play now?" and everything, like always put like, it's you, Tony, right. You know? Yeah. My favorite scene of hers in the movie is when Johnny comes home from prison and she's trying to like keep that level of like pleasantry, like, "Oh, you look so good, da, da, da." And then she's like, "Oh, you're doing this to me. I put on this whole thing, you know, da, da, da." And then like she goes in the kitchen, she throws something, and then she like comes out and she's like, "I made this pizza thing and it's not even Easter."
I freaking love that. And then the scene that stood out to me the most, because as much as I love Jon Bernthal, I don't think they gave him enough to play with. So it was like you kind of went for a big name and you didn't really give him much to chew on. But to be fair, Tony in the show never really had the best relationship with his father. So there probably was just not much there. He was obviously closer with his uncle than he was with his dad. But it brought me back to the show where Tony's sister was telling the story about when their mom got shot in the hair. And I remember hearing it going, his sister is certifiable. This story it's probably true. And then you see them in the car just driving and she's just whining and complaining. And then bow. I thought he really shot her in the head. So I'm like, oh no, maybe that's what really started to drive her crazy.
No, it's just the hair.
And then you see like the hair sizzling. And you're like, oh, that's right. I remember the sister story now. But walk me through, Tia, how crazy that scene was, and then how it was seeing everyone in the back seat just pretending that didn't just happen.
See, my favorite part about that scene is like, all right, so any normal person, right? Your spouse, like, and don't get me wrong, it's like, yeah, she was nagging, but it's still unprovoked, right? You're like, because you know the way Janice made it seem in the story, she's like, "Oh my God, the mom was going on and on." It's like, yeah, I get that she was, but like, come on. So when he does that, and it's so quick, and so like any normal person would be like, "Oh my God, how could you?" Like someone call, like she just looks at him like. As if he didn't just pull a gun out and pull the trigger. Like that's it. So, and I know we wanted to talk about that scene, but like my favorite thing, like, and Jon Bernthal didn't have a lot to go on, and I think even in an interview he says that, because when we see his character in the show, it's all through flashbacks. But literally my favorite thing is like, because in the show, remember how Livia would talk about Johnny? She'd be like, "Oh my God, my Johnny, if he was still alive, he'd never do this. My Johnny, my Johnny." Johnny couldn't fucking stand her. He was rolling his eyes at her every second. Like even when he's being sentenced to jail and she's breaking down, I don't know if you know, he literally was like this and everything, and I'm like, he literally just like cannot with her. The only thing I think he actually likes about her is her baked ziti, because it's like the only time he's nice to her.
Yeah. And it felt like he took it a little bit out on the daughter, but I think that's just probably how fathers were back then, like super protective.
Well, yeah, I mean, him saying to her like, "Oh, what are you wearing? Go back upstairs and put on some real clothes," did like, I'm not trying to like out anything right now, but felt very familiar. felt very familiar hearing that line. So
I mean, even when I even harken back to when he gave Tony money. And he's like, go get you and your friend some burgers from McDonald's or whatever.
That McDonald's.
He kind of just looks over at his daughter and it's kind of just like, and then just walks away. And it's like, well, can she get some money to do something? Like, what is this? Why is it only Tony gets something?
Yeah, Janice definitely, you could tell early on, was not the favorite. Johnny looked at Tony because that's his only son, and that's very much how fathers were back then. And then, because I think, and I forget this sometimes too, that Tony has another sister, but the sister's so young that it's like that's the baby in his eyes. So you could tell that's probably how he like regarded her. But Janice totally was like, oh, you're the middle child. Yeah. No one cares.
And you saw that play out a lot during the show. He very much had that that syndrome to where it's just like nothing was ever made about me. It was always Tony this, Tony that, Tony this, Tony that. But I wanted to go through a few landmarks or a few things that were that popped up in this movie that we obviously saw play a huge part in the show, and then we'll go through some more characters, and then I want to get your thoughts on, do we need more from where this story left off? We're definitely going to talk Dickie, all that.
Okay.
But I want to bring up a few things. So the pork store. We got the pork store in this. That was really, really, really cool. Anyone that knows the Sopranos show knows that the pork store is where they sat out front almost religiously. Yes. That was the hangout spot. They would sit out front and just shoot the shit. Now this one was very, very, very special to me. The Holstons, where Dickie tells Tony to meet him.
Right.
Don't be late. Now, the significance of Holstons is it's the last time we, as fans, see Tony Soprano. That's where the show ended, was at Holstons, where they got the big basket of onion rings. And in this movie, it was supposed to be Tony's last time.
Dickie.
It was his last time seeing Dickie. So that place now has even more significance than it did just in the show. But did you know that was the place?
I didn't. I know the last scene in Sopranos. It's like one of those like most talked about things ever. But I didn't know that was what that was called. I was gonna say that I love seeing the little like another callback to the show. I love seeing the little relationship that Tony had with Artie, the guy who owns the restaurant and everything. And there's that conversation that they have where Artie's like, oh, my dad wants me to take over the restaurant when I get older and everything, which, by the way, I was going to use that as another example as to why Livia always bitched and complained. Because I don't know if you remember the scene in Sopranos when she's in the hospital and Artie comes and brings her this really nice meal. And he's like, it's Northern. And she's like, Northern. And it's like, just another example of how much I really dislike that woman.
What ended up happening to her, I was not happy about. But man, was it a sigh of relief not to hear that tone, that complaining, just episode after episode. Also, the carnival bus. We know that Tony was talking to his therapist about his dad and how important that moment was. We saw it play out here also in this movie, the carnival bus.
And if I could interrupt really quick, that's Playland. That's Playland, and that holds a huge significance for anyone who lives in Westchester County. I live in Westchester County in New York, and we went to Playland every single summer. So seeing that be in this movie was so cool, because it's like if you're someone who grew up in Westchester, New York, you went to Playland, you know what it looks like. So as soon as they showed it, it's like, it's Playland. I was like, look, it's Playland. And they said it later. I don't know if you caught it. They said it later in the movie. Oh, Playland. So I just wanted to say that I love that, because I know that they did shoot some scenes here in New York. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, I loved it. And I did love seeing that scene again. Obviously, we did see it played out in the show as a flashback, but to see it in, the real time, the real setting.
in that I was watching, so I watched it twice, the movie, right? Once like a little earlier than yesterday, when my boyfriend came home from work, we watched it again. And when they're getting busted at Playland and the one guy runs and he gets shot, and my boyfriend's like, why didn't they just tase him? He goes, oh, they didn't have I go, they didn't have tasers back then. I was like, they just shot you. Oh, you're running?
Yeah.
I was like, God damn.
What was even crazier is they didn't look to run after you. You ran, you're getting shot.
Oh yeah, they're like, I'm not overexerting myself.
Yeah. And I would say in most movies that you see, cops were not the most athletic. Like they were very much. It's why the donut trope was attached to them, because cops usually were, heavier set guys that was just like running.
Hell no,
I'm not running. I did also love that in this, we get the mention of Tony having the makings of a varsity athlete. Because we know that was Tony's biggest issue with Uncle Junior. Uncle Junior always saying he was never going to be an athlete.
I know. And the funniest thing, I don't know if it's supposed to show like, oh, the table was that long so you couldn't hear what he was saying on that end. But it's like, you guys weren't that far from each other when like you literally just turned and was like, he does not have the making. It's like, I think he can hear you. I think he can hear you.
Uncle Junior made it a thing to remind Tony of that almost every time he saw him.
Poor Tony.
He was never going to be an athlete.
He had like mom issues, dad issues, uncle issues,
sister issues. We didn't start with this. I do want to start with this. Christopher is who narrated the movie.
Right.
So I thought that was pretty cool. Just so we had a little bit of flavor of one of the original cast members in the movie.
It was and I'm sorry to interrupt. I was going to say, I really liked the way the movie started, like panning through the grave site and everything. As you said, having Christopher voice it over. I really thought that was nice and cinematic.
Yep. I did say to Joe last night, I get it. I think we'll never get the answer to it, and I'm fine with that. I don't need one. But I would have preferred if his wife is who was walking through the graveyard. And you see her lay a flower down, and as she walks away, you see that it's Tony's. So we get an answer to how the actual series ended.
Are you saying Tony's wife?
Yes, Tony's wife.
Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Did you hear that apparently that actress had filmed the scene and they cut it? Mm-hmm. So I'm like, what was the scene? It very well could have been that.
Her character was in the movie.
Yes, she was in the movie, which I didn't realize that Tony and Carmela knew each other that young. I mean, I know that they've been together. I mean, he says, I think, really in the second season after 18 years of marriage. So it's like, okay, they've been together, but I didn't know they were literally like kids together.
Yeah, I don't think it was ever really touched on. So I think this is kind of filling in some of those blanks that they've known each other that long. But yeah, I kind of just wanted more feels of some of the original cast to be spread into this movie, whether it's giving them an actual role in the movie, obviously not as the characters that they played, but maybe it's something else. By the way, bravo, the Tony when he was a kid looks just like Tony's son. When he was a kid. Joe pointed out, so I want to give credit to Joe from Just Your Average Joe. He pointed it out, and I went back, and I'm like, man, they really look identical.
They kind of nailed the casting.
They did.
In this movie. They really did.
They really did. They put a lot of facial stuff on Vera.
Because at first when I saw her nose and everything, I was like, I'm pretty sure that's not how Vera looks. But I think they did all that prosthetic to have it very much look like, it's not like here we have this actress and you just have to suspend belief that she's playing the same woman. It's like, no, we really want to push that this is the same person.
Right.
So I appreciate that.
Heavy on it. Yeah, they definitely went heavy on it. Now to the big surprise. Whatever happened to Dickie Moltisanti?
Now we know.
Now we know, and now it kind of makes it kind of, we can kind of look back and see when Tony was serving up the person that killed Christopher's dad. We now know it was obviously a tactic to get Christopher back onto his side, rather than an actual definitive that's who did it. Now, albeit I said this to Joe last night, we don't know that cop Tony served up wasn't the one that actually pulled the trigger. We don't know because we did not see their face. But what we never knew was who was behind the hit on Dickie. Tia, this is where I will go. This is why I tell people you have to know the show to appreciate the movie. Because if you just watch this movie, you'll go, wait, Junior put a hit on Dickie because he made fun of him. But if you watch the show first, you know Junior does not like to be picked on at all.
Right.
About anything. So it made perfect sense. I was just like, it makes even more sense that it was Junior that did it.
As soon as I watched, I texted Juwaan. I was like, it was Junior? And Juwaan was like, remember, Junior was really spiteful in the show. And I was like, okay, you're right. Because, like, you know, we saw, and I'm sure we'll get into it, but we saw the tensions build between Dickie and Harold. So to me, it only made sense that Harold would have someone because he had an actual practical reason for it, you know? So then at the end, when Junior goes to the phone booth and it's like, you hear, it's done. I'm like, Junior? God damn, he really took that to heart when Dickie was laughing at him.
Yeah, he did not like that at all. And before we're gonna get back to Dickie, because I want to focus on Dickie going forward. But I want to focus on Harold a little bit. And what I want to focus on Harold is, I think after Dickie was killed, I think the Soprano family and the Moltisantis, I think they were under the impression it was Harold. Because remember, and albeit I do believe it was more so attributed to the times, but if I'm looking deeper into it, remember how Tony and everyone a part of the Sopranos, they were not fond of anybody black doing business, having friendships, especially relationships were the biggest no-no. But remember how Dickie was telling everyone, it's just business, relax. He's here for business, that's it. And they accepted it. But when you fast forward to the Sopranos, Tony didn't even want to do business with anyone black. So I wanted to ask you, do you think that was more so because of the times, or do you think that Tony and them were under the assumption Harold was behind the death of Dickie, and that's why he held such a hatred? Let me not say a hatred, but he wanted nothing to do with anyone. Do you think it was the times, or maybe them linking Harold behind Dickie's murder?
I mean, I just want to say that it was the times, only because when we watched Sopranos, Tony did do business with that one reverend. So, I mean, albeit they're pretty fucking racist in the show. I mean, the way he spoke to that one kid who was just a friend of Meadows was ridiculous. But he was doing business with the Reverend, and he even showed, to me, I think he showed like genuine sympathy when the Reverend's father passed away. So it's like, it could be just one of those things where it was just a product of the time. And I think you and I spoke about in our review of the trailer where it was like, yeah, Tony's fine with doing business. It's just on a personal level, which doesn't make it right. But I'm wondering if it's one of those things where maybe Tony was even too young at the point to even like grasp the concept that there was this Harold guy, and perhaps he could be the reason behind Dickie's death.
Well, remember,
I think it could be something like that.
Remember, he met Harold.
Did I not get to that part of the show yet?
No. I'm sorry, I apologize. I'm talking about in the movie.
Oh, that's right. He was in. That's right. He was in the car.
So he knows Harold. And he is of an age to know, like, if everyone's gossiping within the family of like, oh, the last person I knew Dickie had a problem with was that Harold. Because remember, Harold had the whole shootout with Johnny and Dickie.
Right.
So, and remember, Johnny didn't die there. So Johnny,
which I thought he was, by the way.
I did too.
I was like, this is happening. He's dying and everything. I don't want to take away from us speaking about Harold, but I just wanted to mention really quick, I was for sure thinking that Jon Bernthal was going to die in this. Like, to me, all the signs were pointing in that direction, and it didn't, and I'm kind of happy about that.
Well,
but
the reason why I kind of wasn't expecting it until that point in the movie was it just wasn't really a big focus on Jon. So I was kind of just like, well, if you kind of kill him off, you haven't really done enough to kind of bond Tony and Johnny, where that really speaks to the audience. Because we know in the show, he just wasn't that close to his dad. He loved his dad, for sure. That's not to be questioned. But he just wasn't as close to his dad as he was to Dickie. You know, because again, remember, when his dad came out of prison, what was the first thing his dad said? If I was here, I would have laid into Tony. But remember what Dickie did. Dickie just went, had a conversation with him, had the pinky promise. It was square. Tony understood. So I think that was the difference. Tony and Dickie connected on a different level than Tony and his dad did. So I think if you had killed him off, it wouldn't have hit as much.
Probably not.
When Dickie went, and it was just like, oh, like we knew it was coming, but it's like, oh, Dickie, no. It
was shocking to me. It really was. I was just like, wow, they just killed him just like that. But I really did think it was Harold because, again, it made the most sense for me. They really were at odds with each other. They were fighting. There was casualties on both sides. And to me, if I'm Harold, I want someone like Dickie out of the picture, you know? But I guess then it just became kind of a happy coincidence. He's dead. Harold now doesn't have to deal with him.
Right. And I will say, Harold, just to anybody that maybe doesn't know, because clearly Harold either didn't know or didn't care. If your best friend is a guy, right, and he brings his girl around, you under no circumstances have anything to do with his girlfriend unless he is involved.
Ooh, Harold did not care. Harold did not care whatsoever. Harold was like, he was like, yeah, I'm gonna get involved.
And I was telling Joe, my favorite scene out of the whole movie, besides the very end of the movie, was when he pulled up to Harold and they were talking, and Harold was just staring at her, and Dickie goes, "Hey, come here, talk to me," you know, because it's like, bro, you know how disrespectful that is. You're openly staring at my girl, and I'm supposed to just sit here and go, yeah, no, that's totally fine. No, man, like, I'm surprised Dickie didn't put a bullet in his head right there.
Well, let me tell you, like, Harold definitely, like, was his own sort of bold, and I'll give you these two examples. One being him messing with Dickie's woman, and the other we saw right practically in the beginning of the movie, he chases that kid into a like military recruitment and does not care. He like literally like just shoots him right there without any I was like, that showed me, like, even though Harold seems really nice, he has this nice relationship with his, you know, wife and everything, yada yada yada, it's like he is not afraid to get his hands dirty whatsoever.
He was protected. And when you're protected, you feel as though there's things you can do, things you can't do.
Yeah.
You felt as though hitting on your friend's girlfriend is things you can't. And then here, let's go another step further in bold, and then we're going to get back to Dickie. Yeah. He asked him for money.
Oh my God, when he was like, can I get some money and everything? And I was just like.
And he did it for him.
Yeah. But albeit, I think Dickie did it as a way of like, okay, well, now get away from me, you know, like, here's some money, you don't have to even owe me or anything, get away from me. Because again, with the time that it was and everything, you know that he was being looked at a certain sort of way for associating with someone like Harold and everything. So for him, he's like, okay, fine, like, I don't even want to be seen doing a nice thing for you, so I'm going to give you this 500 and go away.
Don't come
pretty
back.
Much
so I'm going to ask you oh, no, go ahead. No,
you go.
I was just going to ask you, what were your thoughts on, like, the rise and then essentially the fall of Dickie Moltisanti?
So before I get into that, I do want to talk about Giuseppina for a second, which I really hate that name for some reason. Beautiful actress, and I liked her part. Very beautiful. Why would you tell a gangster that you're screwing someone else near water?
Let alone his enemy. Like, I think that if she had said the guy that scoops ices on the corner, he would have been like, okay, clearly I'm gonna go kill the guy that makes ices on the corner, but you're safe. You know, obviously I'm gonna be mad for a while. I'll probably take away the salon, but you'll be alive.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have told him his enemy at the time.
And like, and I'm sorry, like, I know this is gonna seem like, well, you know, you should tell him. Why did you tell him? Like, to me, I really didn't feel like she owed him. He's married. He's a married man. You are the mistress and everything. So why do you have any sort of like, you're not required to tell, like, why would you tell him? Why in that moment? She's like, I'm with Harold. And then he's like, how many times? And she's like, I don't know, which is like even worse.
Like, and then what makes it worse here is she waited to tell him when things were good.
Right.
He just told her the salon is yours. I'm hands off. You do what you want. It's yours. You finally get your dream. And then she's like, how can I show him I'm appreciative of this? I know. I'll tell him I'm sleeping with not only his ex-best friend, not best friend, I'm sorry, his ex-friend, but also his now enemy. And it's like, I don't understand. Why would you say that?
I mean, as soon as she like uttered the words, I was like, she's dying. They're near water.
I thought that scene was poetic. I know it's gonna sound a little twisted, but I thought that scene was poetic because remember, their relationship started because he had told his father, "You used to beat on mom. I will not let you beat on her." And then obviously he kills him. So you fast forward, and then he now feels what his dad went through with how she just knows how to stick it to you.
And
also in a way to where you snap. And I'm not saying she deserved that at all. But I'm saying he now is in this frame of mind his dad was, to where it's just anger. You're not really thinking.
Well, I think it goes to show the what is within the Moltisanti men. You know, his father clearly had a temper. His uncle is in prison for murder. So it's like, I think that it's just showing like the trickle down effect of the violence. And then Christopher. I did find it and I do think you're right, it's poetic. I was going to say that I think it's poetic that her story started essentially in water, coming on the boat, and ended in water.
Oh man, that is true. And she went through a lot learning English.
Yeah. To me, I thought that was I thought that was such a fun, because I'm trying to like teach myself Italian right now, you know, and I'm doing it on like Duolingo. This isn't sponsored, by the way, this thing, but it's like,
but they are if they want to.
But it can be if they want to. Yeah, exactly. But so like when you're first starting to learn any new language, they start with the basics. He eats, he this. So the fact that she's in school and it's like he has the ball and everything, and when she tried and I love, she was like motioning, and then when she gets in the car and he's like, so what'd you learn? And she's like, he has the ball, and he's like, who? And she's like, Spot. And he's just like
this is such a waste of time. Like, why are you here? You're learning nothing. That is nothing.
Yeah. So I laughed really hard at that.
That is actually hilarious, because it's like, wait, I'm paying money for that? Yeah. That's all you learned in one day? The ball. Who? Spot. Who's Spot? Like, what are we talking about? But yeah, I did appreciate Dickie's rise and fall. I thought Dickie's story was amazing. I did laugh in the scene where he gets out the car because someone throws a brick at him as he's laughing at the black people just going completely crazy. And he kind of looked scared in that moment. Yeah. He had this moment where he felt superior because he was being racist against the black people, and then I think he was also laughing at the cops because, you know, he's a criminal, so obviously he doesn't like police, so he's like, ha ha ha, you know. And then as he's backing up and he gets hit, then he has this like look, like, you're not invincible in this crowd, you know, you're not like superior as you think that you are, like, there, you know what I'm saying? That's how I felt. That's exactly how it was.
Realizing.
And then when it hit him, it was just like, oh, this is serious. Let me get back in my car and get the hell up out of here. I did think it was funny that he parked there, and apparently the crowd at the time just was trying to turn over any car that they saw. So I'm just picturing they're just like looting stores, and it's like, oh, a car, we gotta flip it. It's like, everyone come, let's flip this car. And then he pulls out his gun and he's like, get back. And they're just like, oh, okay, it's your car. Okay, all right.
Never mind.
Yeah, never mind. No, thank you. But I thought Dickie was probably, and for obvious reasons, was my standout. Right. He was obviously outside of Junior, but he was amazing. I loved finally seeing the life of Dickie, because we only heard about Tony and Christopher talking about it.
Right.
Obviously, Christopher not remembering as much, because obviously Christopher was, which age-wise was weird, because they in the show they were saying Tony and Christopher were only like 10 years. It was only like a 10 years difference, and it's like, well, Christopher was a baby that Tony was holding.
Tony's
like 16 or 18 years old, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. We don't have to look too much into it, but it now makes sense that Christopher has literally not that much to talk about his dad, because he was an infant.
Yeah.
So, he really has to rely on Tony to tell him everything. I don't think anyone knew Dickie better than Tony.
Yeah. Which was super interesting, their relationship, and then considering what Tony ends up doing to Christopher later on, which is fantastic in that scene when baby Christopher is crying and everything. I don't know who that old lady was, but she was so savage in that moment by going, some babies on the other side know things. And it's like, I feel like if I were Tony, I'd be like, what am I supposed to feel about you saying that?
Like, what do you think I'm gonna do? I love this kid. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to say hello. What do you insinuating? Only for Tony to get to present day, and it's like, oh, that's what she meant.
It's like, you clever old lady. You saw that.
Right. She knew something. Yeah. Apparently, she's from a different multiverse, and in her multiverse, Tony kills Christopher. So she's like, I know what's gonna happen.
She's like the Doctor Strange of the Sopranos. So all these possibilities.
I'm just seeing her, just like, I see it. He's gonna kill him. I know. He's gonna kill.
I know. I wanted to say, like, for some of the side characters, we got to see. Paulie, Silvio, hate saying his name, but big pussy and everything. But
that's such a hilarious name.
Like, why you come up with this?
But did you hear Christopher as a narrator when they were after they robbed the ice cream truck? Christopher says that about Tony. He says he said, I believe this was the first day Tony became half a pussy.
Yeah.
And it was just like, they love that word. They love that word in that family over there.
It really is. But I was gonna say, I forget the actor's name, but the actor who plays Silvio,
let me see.
Oh, he did such a fantastic job in that man's mannerisms. Because if you watch the show, Silvio is like, what is it?
John Magaro.
John, you did a fantastic job. Because if you watch that show, Silvio's always like,
yes.
Yeah. And I mean and John Magaro did like such a fantastic job. And I love that we found out that it's a piece. I knew it was a piece. I knew it was fake, but I love that they I was like, that's fake. So I love when you see him with just like the thing and he's like, don't touch it. And then like for some reason, he was a standout to me in that little like cast of goons and everything, just because I thought it was hilarious. We didn't get a whole lot of like Paulie's personality that you get in the show, although I thought it was funny that he was literally doing his nails at like dinner. It's like, okay, Paulie. But it also kind of made it really sad that when you go into the show that you find out that Pussy is an informant, and then Tony has to kill him, because then you see how long they've actually known each other for.
Yep. And I was telling Joe yesterday, I thought it was hilarious how like you see Silvio kind of telling Tony, like, telling
Dickie
Dickie, thank you. Like, he's a good kid, like, rectify things, fix things. And that's ultimately what makes Dickie say, call him, tell him to meet me at the shop. Don't be late. I love it because Silvio in that moment doesn't know, like, this kid is going to be your boss soon.
So in the future, he'll be telling you what to do.
He'll be telling you what to do. But and I thought it was really interesting because they had a great relationship, Tony and Silvio. So that was kind of the breadcrumbs that what led to it. Silvio apparently always thought Tony was a good kid. So I mean, I personally loved it. So obviously we get to the end, and I was telling Joe, he was like, I felt emotion. I didn't cry. I felt more amped. I cried. The end of that movie, where Tony walked up to the casket, I thought he was going to be angry and everything. And where you start to hear the theme song start to kick in, and then they do the pinky promise, and then that's what obviously is the beginning of Tony Soprano's story. I teared because it's like, damn, I miss Sopranos so much. Hearing that theme song is just like, man.
It's such a great theme song, and like when it started playing, I was like, oh, they actually included it. Okay. I do want us to talk about, because obviously I feel this project, is a big deal for Michael Gandolfini, who is the son of the late James Gandolfini, who is the whole reason why Sopranos was and is as popular as it is. First of all, Michael looks exactly like his dad, so that was, impressive. But what did you think of Michael's performance as Tony in this movie?
See, my biggest thing was I wasn't expecting him to be like his dad, because he's playing a younger Tony before he becomes the Tony that we know. So to me, I thought he did great for a younger Tony that we never got to see. So, this Tony is drastically different than what he becomes. He becomes a lot more certifiable as he gets older, but clearly he goes through a whole lot to get to that.
I had heard in an interview, not with Michael, maybe with David Chase, the creator of Sopranos, where he said that Michael was kind of not trying too hard, that's a bad way of saying it, but he was being too much of Tony from the Sopranos, and where it was like, you're being too good right now. This isn't Tony from the Sopranos, we got to be a younger Tony and everything. So that just goes to show that he is able to get there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I personally loved it because, like I said, it's the movie's not about him. It's about Dickie. So for the screen time that he had, I thought the kid nailed it, especially when he started to develop that anger. When he's fighting his friend outside the phone booth. And I'm like, yeah, that's Tony. That's Tony. That's Tony right there. But what did you think? Did you enjoy him?
So I did enjoy him. I do wish that we had gotten a little more. I realize that it's not Tony's story, but it's such an emotional thing to have James' son play him, that I would have liked to see more. But I think he looked great. I loved his, like, as you can see, you have it in your background right now. I love his little 1970s hairdo that he's rocking, love that. But I love the scenes even between, like, one of my favorite scenes where he's in it is the scene where he's with Livia and having the burger, because it's showing the beginnings of their really tumultuous relationship with each other. And I really liked it. I wanted to see more of him just because I did think he was doing such a good job. But I loved his relationship with Dickie, and I loved that he was able to convey this really sort of hurt that Tony had when Dickie was pushing him away. Even shows up to try and speak to Dickie, and he can't. And it's like, I think that he conveyed all of that really well. So I just wanted to put a spotlight to Michael Gandolfini, because I do think that he did a good job stepping into his father's shoes, which can't have been easy. You know what I'm saying?
No. But I respect him so much for even wanting to attempt to. Because that. It's tough, man. That has to be tough. And I'm sure it had to be tough because not only filling in for your dad, but knowing how much this meant to your dad, how fond James was of doing everything they did with The Sopranos. So I'm sure there was a lot of emotion conveyed in that, but I love this movie. I really did. I've told Dom to go see it, Dan to go see it, my cousin to go see it. It's just such a good movie. Apparently, Joe was telling me a whole bunch of critics and fans didn't really like it. I don't care.
People were saying negative things. I saw someone say it was boring. To me, I felt like this movie felt more like an episode, which I don't think is a bad thing at all. Like for me, I was like, and I know we were going to talk about, do we need more? I know we were talking privately where you said like, well, I didn't think that Sopranos needed more, but now this movie came. For me, it's like I just really enjoyed what all the actors and actresses did with their parts. That's why I would want to see more. I want to see more Corey Stoll as Junior. I want to see more Michael as Tony. So it's like I just want to see more, and I just want to be selfish about it. I think it was a good story. I think that it, maybe if you're like a real old time diehard Sopranos fan, maybe it'll take you out a little because all the actors aren't the same actors. But for me, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was crafted really well, and I would definitely love to see more. And, I don't listen to critics. I form my own opinions. I mean, it's a reason why I still like Suicide Squad.
That is true. You love you some Suicide Squad. But no, I mean, to me, if you watch The Sopranos, this felt, like you said, like any episode of The Sopranos. I don't know what they saw in this that they thought they got more of in the show. The show was just really about them sitting down, talking all the time. And I think sometimes there was some action, but it's like.
Well, I was going to say, I think in movies, people think it's going to be like, they think, oh, this is going to be like The Godfather. It's going to be like Goodfellas. It's going to be bang, bang, shoot 'em up. We're going to see some Italian gangsters, But as you said, the show was, first of all, 95% of the time they're freaking eating in that show, and then like once they get their hands dirty. So to me, I'm like, they are following the same, format, really. I mean, it's a story.
A lot of episodes was just Tony talking to his therapist.
So very true. It's how the freaking show starts. Tony is sitting opposite of his therapist. So it's like, it was not this huge, massive, actiony sort of show. Why would the movie be this huge, actiony sort of movie?
Right. Like if, okay, I'll say this. If we know what Mission Impossible is, right? If they decided to do a show on Mission Impossible, and all it is Ethan just training people, then you can go, whoa, that's not Mission Impossible.
Right.
But that's a drastic difference. But Sopranos, in every episode, they're not murdering people. It's not gunfights. It's not shootouts. It's not, setting someone's car on fire. It's a story. Yeah. Godfather was the same way. It wasn't murder every 2 seconds. It was building a story. It's why a lot of people think it's boring, is because it was just dialogue.
And it was dialogue, and it was a lot also about like relationships. I'll use the example of, in the show, Tony's really like destroyed over the fact that Pussy was an informant.
Right.
It was about that they had these like great relationships, and I think that the movie touched upon that. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot. I thought there was a lot of really great scenes. If I had to do any complaints, not enough Jon Bernthal, obviously. Not enough Jon Bernthal. And I would have liked to see a little bit more of Tony. But besides that, I really enjoyed it. I even thought Ray Liotta did a great job, especially as the uncle. I didn't expect that he was playing two different characters. And I like that we saw the contrast, and I enjoyed the movie. I want to see more. I want a Many Saints of Newark too.
I mean, my biggest issue with following this up is, I guess you can go Uncle Junior, but I don't know who takes over the family now. Who takes over the family business? Like, what would the very next movie be? Because you don't want to jump too close, to the age Tony was in the show. Because then you're asking his son to be him. And it's
well, you
don't want to get too far.
Well, doesn't Johnny, isn't he still in charge? You can do, you can.
I'm sorry, no, go ahead.
I was going to say you can explore him dying, show, how that maybe changes the family dynamic and everything. You can do more of that, maybe bring Harold back, see, what happens from there if they do try to put blame on Harold for Dickie's death. I'm not saying it has to be a huge jump. It literally could be right afterward. So I don't know. But you're right. I mean, I'm not sure where they would go with it, but if they gave us this, then I trust that they'd be able to give us a pretty decent story for a sequel.
Yeah, I just only reason why I don't know if Johnny would take control is they didn't do a good enough job showing what his stronghold was in this movie.
Right.
Because like you said, it just wasn't enough of him, which was fine. Obviously, the movie was about Dickie, so I don't mind. Yeah. Which is apropos, because the show is about the Sopranos, but the movie was about the Moltisantis.
Yeah. I mean, he really liked Dickie Moltisanti, because, and it's funny because you do see how much he stepped up, because in the beginning of the movie, he's going to him, oh, this envelope is light. And then when he's coming back, he's yelling at Junior going, oh, look at Dickie. He stepped up, blah, blah, blah. So it's like clearly to them, Dickie was like the gold standard of, of
the family. Yep. He was the Michael Corleone, essentially, to where it was like, well, that's the leader.
That's the leader. I will say I did like at the very end, I like Harold actually moving his family into a nice place and them kind of like sticking it to the neighbors who don't like that and everything.
Yeah, essentially that was the there goes the neighborhood. That's where that comes from, stuff like that. But yeah, Joe was asking, he's like, well, do you think that was supposed to mean something? I said essentially that Harold won. Harold had his what if. What if Harold actually became a mob boss, a respected mob boss? And it's like, well, he would make more money. He can buy a house that he wants. So essentially it was just him winning. That was it. He won.
I think that's what it was supposed to show, that like, Dickie was so confident in everything. And it's like, yeah, but you don't know who you were stepping over, who is, pretty much Dickie thought he could be however he wanted. Right. Meanwhile, the people around you are, pretty much tallying up all the shit you pile on him, while Harold's like kind of waiting in the distance. And it's like, then he's coming up like that,
He picked up the breadcrumbs.
Exactly.
Tia, me and you have to definitely interview some of this cast to talk more about the movie, because this movie was just too good. And like I said, no one else has to be alongside me with this, but I am lobbying Corey to get nominated for best.
He was so fantastic. He was so good. We need interviews. We're both Sopranos fans. Mm-hmm. You're an honorary New Yorker. I know you. Well, no, actually, you're in New Jersey where it's taken place. So there you go. It's even better. Even better. You're from New Jersey and everything, so you can represent. And I'm an Italian American. So come on, guys. Let's do this.
That's our sales pitch. That's what we're gonna.
That's our sales pitch.
That's what we're gonna pitch to everybody when we try to interview them from this cast. It's like, look, I'm in New Jersey. Tia is Italian. What else do you need?
What else do you want from us? And we're actually giving the movie good reviews.
Yes, we don't love the movie because we're about to do an interview. We love the movie, and now we're hoping because we love it, we can get interviews.
Exactly.
That's the most authentic form of it. But yeah, we love this movie. Everyone top to bottom did a great job. If there was characters we forgot to talk about, it's not because we didn't like them or care about them. We're just not trying to make this an overly long review.
Right.
But we did very much like everything of this, really. Like I said, I told Joe yesterday, I have no negatives. My one negative was a funny thing, not an actual problem, was just shooting that van driver blind, but hitting that driver precisely to get them to crash right before Harold.
It's the movies.
Yeah, that was my only issue. I was just like, he wasn't even looking. It was just shooting like over his head, and it nailed the van driver perfectly. So yeah, that was my only issue. But guys, our team has been pouring out reviews, interviews, screeners, podcasts, everything like crazy. Please make sure you guys go check out our website, our YouTube channel, our Twitter, our Instagram. Keep up to date with us. Comic-Con is next week.
Oh my God, it's so close.
So close. You guys will be getting so much content from GVN, so stay tuned for that. T, I want to thank you so much for doing this review with me on the Many Saints of Newark. God, that's such a long name.
If I could say really quickly, I just want to plug, I do also have a written review for this movie, so I'll link that down below. Please make sure that you're giving this video all the likes and all that, because, you know, we work hard. We work hard for what we do.
We sure do. So thank you guys. This will be out either later on today or tomorrow, so stay tuned for it. But as always, guys, thank you. Until next time.
Bye.